Let's dive right into today's explainer, looking at The Guest in the Rain, a tale of true wealth. We're going to unpack a deeply moving traditional story that literally tests the very limits of human generosity during the absolute most desperate of times. It's a narrative that pushes its characters to the total edge of survival. And, by the time we wrap this up, it might just completely change how you view the whole concept of true wealth.
I want you to start off by putting yourself in this exact scenario. Just imagine it. The rain has been pouring for 3 days straight. Your cupboards? Completely bare. You have absolutely zero money. And yet, there are two stranded strangers sleeping in your tiny mud house because, well, they literally had nowhere else to go in the storm. It's the ultimate dilemma. Honestly, what would you do?
Which brings us to Section 1, The Uninvited Guests.
Let's set the scene with our main characters. We've got Ramu, who's a day laborer, his wife Gauri, and their young son, Chotu. They live in this super fragile small mud house right on the edge of a village. So for 3 relentless days, this heavy rain has trapped them inside. That means Ramu can't go out to earn his daily wage. And sleeping in the other room are 2 totally silent, stranded strangers, a husband and wife who sought shelter the night before. You can practically feel the tension in the house. Because while these guests are sleeping, Gauri has been awake all night, just agonizing over a terrifying reality.
Moving on to Section 2, A Mother's Empty Kitchen.
Look at the truly impossible choice Gauri is facing here. Her pantry is, for all intents and purposes, totally empty. The flour tin is bare, there's only a tiny handful of dal left, and barely a drop of oil. If she uses this absolute last bit of food to, uphold tradition and honor these uninvited guests, her little boy Chotu is going to starve by evening. But on the flip side, if she saves it for her son, what on earth does she feed the strangers taking shelter under her roof?
When Gauri actually confesses this massive anxiety to her husband, Ramu responds with this incredibly simple yet profound philosophy. He tells her, "Poverty is not a sin, Gauri. Bad behavior is." See, he genuinely believes that turning away a guest in need or failing to offer them whatever little you have would just be a lifelong burden on his conscience. He essentially tells her that God is watching their intentions and they absolutely have to share what they have, even if it's literally just dry bread.
But man, we can deeply, deeply feel Gauri's perspective here too. This isn't about her being selfish at all. This represents the agonizing grief of a mother who feels like she's failing her own child. She admits to Ramu, "But when Chotu looks at me hungry, my heart sinks." So while Ramu is speaking of these high, noble ideals, Gauri is coming at it as a mother and a homemaker. To her, serving an empty plate to guests brings immense shame, but watching her child physically go hungry, that just completely breaks her heart.
And that leads into Section 3, The Ultimate Sacrifice.
So despite all her intense fears, Gauri manages to scrape together the absolute last bits of flour and makes 5 rotis alongside this tiny, tiny bowl of watery dal. She serves it to the guests with literally trembling hands, falsely claiming that she, Ramu, and Chotu are just going to eat later. The guest looks down at this meager plate and says something amazing. He tells Gauri that the world's most delicious food isn't the one full of ghee or expensive spices. The most delicious food is the one served with the heart. And, he sees right through their polite little lies.
Yeah, that whole facade quickly crumbles. Young Chotu innocently speaks up and he totally exposes his mother's lie. He just blurts out that the flour tin was completely empty that morning and that he actually catches his parents drinking water at night just to kill their hunger pangs. Hearing this, the guest absolutely refuses to eat another bite in isolation. He divides his rotis up, hands some to Chotu, and makes a really firm demand. Either the entire starving family sits down and shares this meager meal as equals, or he's going hungry too. It is such a beautiful subversion of that traditional guest-host dynamic.
Which brings us to a twist in Section 4, The Mysterious Letter.
Okay, so just as they finish sharing this incredibly desperate, emotional meal, the wind violently blows the door open, throwing our entire narrative into a thrilling mystery. Along with the wind and the rain, an anonymous, wet envelope lands right inside the mud house. Ramu opens it up, and inside is this single slip of paper with a really cryptic message. Don't try to recognize the guest. The truth will come out at the right time. I mean, talk about sending an absolute chill through the family. Who on earth is watching them in the middle of this terrible storm? When they ask the guest about it, he remains perfectly calm. He just smiles and says he isn't their enemy, but, well, he isn't just there to hide from the rain either.
Driven by all this anxiety, Ramu grabs a broken umbrella and actually braves the torrential downpour to go investigate. By midday, he's out there questioning villagers. Old Kakashambu mentioned seeing someone lurking by the village tree the night before. And then later in the afternoon, a shopkeeper named Hari Ram confirms he saw a mysterious guy wrapped in a black blanket heading straight toward Ramu's house. Ramu quickly realizes they're being watched, and somehow these guests are right at the center of the whole thing.
Let's uncover the truth in Section 5, the billionaire's final test.
So Ramu returns home soaking wet and with no real answers. But as the rain finally starts to clear the very next morning, the guest calls Ramu into the courtyard and, at long last, reveals his true identity. He says his name is Vijay. He actually pulls out a weathered photo proving he's the younger brother of Ramu's childhood friend, Mohan. But here's the real shocker. Vijay reveals that he's actually a highly successful millionaire. He and his wife have literally been traveling in disguise from village to village. Why? They're looking for people who retain their humanity even in crushing poverty. That mysterious letter, the lurker in the black blanket, it was all a deliberate test set up by Vijay's staff to see if sheer fear would make Ramu throw them out into the storm.
And right at that moment, the roar of engines completely breaks the village silence. Luxury cars pull right up to this tiny mud house. Vijay's men step out and present an open bag filled with an astronomical sum of money, 1 crore rupees. For context, that is 10 million rupees. Vijay offers this massive fortune to Ramu as a reward for passing every single test, for having a heart pure enough to feed strangers before his very own starving child. Now, you'd totally expect him to jump at the cash, right? I mean, who wouldn't? But instead, Ramu gently reaches out and closes the bag. He flat out refuses the money. He looks this billionaire in the eye and says, "If I served you just for money, I would take it. But I gave you shelter, treating you as a guest sent by God. I cannot take a price for my humanity."
This brings us to our final chapter, Section 6, the true reward.
Ramu's stunning rejection of all that cash is the final, undeniable proof of his incorruptible character. And honestly, it completely overwhelms the disguised billionaire. Vijay realizes that just handing Ramu a bag of cash is, well, it's almost an insult to his dignity. So instead of a simple financial transaction, Vijay offers him something far, far more valuable. Vijay decides to build a brand new orphanage and school right there in the village, and he appoints Ramu as its lifelong manager with a really respectful salary. The family gets a secure new home, and Chotu's entire education is fully funded. So you see, Ramu isn't just given charity, he's given a dignified purpose. He's given a platform to continue helping others on a much larger scale.
And this just brilliantly illustrates the true moral of the story. When Chotu later asks his father what would have happened if they had just locked the door that rainy night, Ramu tells him they wouldn't have just locked out 2 strangers. They would have literally locked out their own destiny. As Ramu tells his son, sometimes God comes as a guest, knocking not on the door of the house, but on the door of the heart. It shows us that true wealth really isn't the cash sitting in your bank account. It's the size and the openness of your heart.
So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to ponder long after this explainer wraps up. Look, we all face storms in our lives, right? And we're all going to encounter people who need our help right when we feel like we have absolutely nothing left to give. So, when that moment comes, how would you answer the knock at the door of your heart? Thanks for exploring this incredible story with me. Until next time, stay curious and stay kind.